There's something so synthesized about reading this story plot that let you realize that it's not even much of a movie. It's not particularly funny. It can be whittled down in 5 minutes just reading. Like, it's bad. This movie's bad.
You are about to enter the courtroom of the Honorable Judge KennieJD. Does she have any movie critic experience? No. Does she have any authority? No. But they gave her a show anyways. The movies are bad. The cases are good. The rulings are final. This is in defense of...
Me. Why, hello there. Welcome to another episode of In Defense of, a More Better Production. I am your host, Judge Jury KennieJD. And on this here podcast, we talk about movies that got bad ratings or did poorly at the box office and decide whether or not they deserve them. Ayo. Today we'll be talking about a film that I never knew existed, partially because I'm not really into Adam Sandler. I'm sorry. I don't like Jim Carrey. I don't like Adam Sandler. Rest assured, I do like Ben Stiller. The three white comedians are safe, I guess. But today we're talking about a film called Jack and Jill. It's a 2011 American comedy starring Adam Sandler, in which he plays the dual role of Jack and Jill, who are twin siblings. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this film is because it has some of the most impressive Razzie. I'm right here, babe. I'm right here. We're here every week. And my emails are dry from you. Samantha, I'm just saying a name. It's probably somebody on your board named Samantha. There's always at least one girl named Samantha. Tell Samantha I would like to be invited. Can you really call yourself? Yes, you can. You were out before I was born, I think. But can you really call yourself connoisseurs of trash in the modern era? In order to be in this biz, you gotta have a delusional sense of self-worth and equally delusional sense of importance. Here I am. I say all this to say that the reason why I wanted to talk about this movie, are my lips purple? If my lips are purple, it's due to our friends over at Crystal Like, who aren't sponsoring today, but it's just why. But the reason why I wanted to talk about this movie is because it swept the Razzies. Impressive. You know, if you're gonna do shit, you gotta do it bigger than ever before. At the 32nd Golden Raspberry Awards, the film was nominated for a record 12 Razzies in all 10 categories. It became the first film to sweep the Razzies, winning in each category, including Worst Picture, Worst Director, Worst Actor, Worst Actress, Worst Screenplay, Worst Screen Couple for any of the three people that Sandler ends up being opposite for. Pacino, Al Pacino's in this. He was also in Geely. What's going on, Al? Like, what, did you just taking anything? Well, this was 10 years ago, so maybe he's not still. But you were just taking anything, one after another. Okay, those movies are literally like 7 years apart. What am I talking about? But still, it's bad. You should have never been anywhere near this. Who do you owe money? Who does Al Pacino owe money? You heard it here, people. Al Pacino obviously owes somebody the big bucks. Anyway, but it got Worst Screen Couple for any of the people that Sandler ends up being opposite, including himself. He's also opposite Al Pacino, and also Katie Holmes, I think is her name. Unfortunately, when I think of Katie Holmes, I think of Tom Cruise being like roided up, screaming, jumping up and down on Oprah's couch. I'm in love with Katie Holmes. Like, it was a lot. Worst prequel, remake, ripoff, or sequel. I don't know if this is, I guess, to the story of Jack and Jill, but it's just the names. They're not at all similar to like folklore of Jack and Jill. But anyway, in 2012, it won the Kids' Choice Awards Favorite Movie Actor winner for Adam Sandler. And you always know it's a bad movie when the kids loved it. But and the 2011 Golden Schmoes Worst Movie of the Year. Now, one of the things that you'll note outside of how bad this movie is that it also has a cornucopia of cameos, including but not limited to Johnny Depp, Regis Philbin, Dan Patrick, Shaquille O'Neal, Drew Carey, John McEnroe, I don't know who that is, Christy Brinkley, Bill Romanowski, Michael Irvin, Jared Fogle, I guess that's before they found out, Billy Blanks, the Tybo guy? That's who that dude was. I was sitting there thinking that was, I thought that was Seal. It's not Seal, it's Billy Blanks. Billy Blanks, Vince Offer, Caitlyn Jenner prior to transition, so at the time formerly known as Bruce Jenner. All of these people were playing themselves. Of the people that are kind of randomly in this movie but did the best performance, if you want to call it that, was actually Al Pacino, who actually is quite funny on screen, though, again, seemingly a very random person to be in this movie. Again, Sandler set a record for garnering the most nominations at the Razzies, and that would take over the record from Eddie Murphy's Morbid from 2008, which received 5 nominations by one single individual at the ceremony. At the box office, the film opened in 3,438 theaters at number 2, with $25 million behind Immortals, which debuted in the top spot with $32 million. The film closed on February 26, 2012, with a total gross of $74 million in North America. It also made $75 million in other territories for a total worldwide gross of nearly $150 million against its $79 million budget. Again, I would imagine most of that budget was going towards all of the ridiculous cameos that were there for some reason. Like Shaq is there in a ridiculous demo role for some reason, and there's Billy Blanks I don't think had a line. Most of them didn't. They were just, I don't think Caitlyn Jenner said anything either. They were just there. So I'm like, oh, okay. As far as ratings go, this movie got a pretty appropriate 3% from critics and 36% from audiences, which is still lower than I would expect for audiences, just simply because I feel like if you liked Adam Sandler, this movie shouldn't be any worse than anything else that he ever made, to be quite frank with you. I don't like Adam Sandler. I do not find him funny. Sarah Michelle Fetters from moviefreak.com, quote, "So I didn't think the movie was any good. No shock there. It's flat, rarely funny, oddly boring, and so gratingly sophomore. Much of it plays like nails running down a chalkboard. 0.5 out of 4. Sandra Hall from Sydney Morning Herald. Adam Sandler has succumbed to the Eddie Murphy syndrome. He's afflicted with the belief that we can't get enough of him." So, synopsis. Thanksgiving is usually a happy time, but ad executive Jack, played by Adam Sandler, dreads the holidays because his twin sister, Jill, also Adam Sandler, makes her annual visit. When Jack and his sister get off on the wrong foot, the only way to make it right is to invite her to stay through Hanukkah. But when actor Al Pacino, played by Al Pacino, whom Jack desperately needs to star in a commercial, takes a shine to Jill, Jack may be forced to extend his sister's visit even longer. Now, before we start delving into the plot, I will say, from what I've noticed about this film, is that it's not particularly funny. At some point, about as offensive as I expect anything from 2011 to be, honestly. I think it was not great. Not great Mexican jokes, a lot of kind of, is it a man jokes, and it was stuff that I expect from 2011, especially in the comedy genre. So though it leaves a bad taste in my mouth, it didn't shock me. I guess what shocked me was how the basis of the premise itself sounds like it could be funny. It just wasn't. Also a lot of arguably anti-Semitic sentiment in there. Adam Sandler, is he Jewish? Well, he's Jewish in this movie. Is Adam Sandler Jewish. Okay, so he is Jewish, because I was gonna say that's gonna change a lot of thoughts I had about this. Because if you're not Jewish, he made a lot of Jewish jokes that I feel uncomfortable about now. Yes, he's Jewish. So, I mean, I felt uncomfortable about them in general, but they have a different tone and color when when it's like a non-Jewish guy just making all these Jewish jokes. It's like not cool. I will admit that there were some moments that I did actually laugh. Most of which in some ways circles around Al Pacino, who's just an odd character to be in this movie. And I think that in and of itself kind of makes you laugh. But as far as like Adam Sandler and whether he's playing Jill or Jack, I found him so grating and annoying and non-funny. But also kind of admittedly, I always feel that way about, again, I don't like a lot of people that really like certain aspects of Adam Sandler, Jim Carrey. Like with Jim Carrey, people like the face. Okay, then. Like people, I guess, find that funny. I never did. So I was just like, are you gonna say a joke or are you just doing onomatopoeia? I kind of feel the same way about Adam Sandler. And this movie I think is interesting in the fact that because he's playing two characters, you can see that twice. So that's fun. Like you can see it almost double the amount of time and in double the amount of scenarios that you would anyway. Honestly, I think that's why, admittedly, I'm a bit confused by the hate that this movie has, because I don't find it any worse than anything else that he has made before. But I will say that this movie isn't funny. Whether that be because it didn't age well, apparently not. People didn't find it funny in 2011 either, but I'm still befuddled. I am by why this movie is less funny than anything else that he's made. Maybe I'm like saying something incredibly controversial. If you grew up watching Adam Sandler movies and actually enjoyed them, I'm curious, like, what was your favorite movie? Maybe I'll rewatch some, because I didn't like them as a kid, so maybe I'll rewatch some and kind of reach an opinion on that. But from what I remember, movies that I had seen, I just wasn't interested. I was not a fan at all, so I must be missing something. But that aside, let's talk about the plot. So in Los Angeles, there's Jack Saddlestein, who is a successful advertising executive who lives with his wife, Erin, and their two kids, Sophia and Gary. Gary is adopted, and he's originally of Indian descent. Unfortunately, that gets played up for some jokes. Not a fan of that. His unemployed twin sister, Jill, lives in her working class home neighborhood in New York City, the Bronx more specifically, and she has been living alone since the death of their mother. She visits Jack for Thanksgiving and plans to stay until after Hanukkah. With an open-ended plane ticket, we see Jill annoying Jack at various places, particularly at Thanksgiving dinner, also at a staff celebration that they did for their birthday. And while she's in town, she decides to do a bunch of random things. This is where they bring in all the cameos. She goes on The Price is Right. She goes horseback riding. She tours a studio. And afraid that Jill is gonna just be around indefinitely, Jack is like, she needs to find a man. Like, get her a man. So everyone decides to help her get on dating sites. This is like the early 2010s, so dating online was still a bit of a taboo. Like, everyone's a serial killer essentially. However, she's not at all successful at finding a partner. Meanwhile, at Jack's agency, they want him to get Al Pacino to appear in a Dunkin' Donuts commercial to promote their new coffee called the Dunkaccino.
Al Pacino!
It's not Al anymore. It's Dunk.
Dunkaccino?
Don't mind if I do.
It writes itself. Jack ends up taking Jill to a Lakers game with Al Pacino in attendance. And Al Pacino, seeing Jill, is immediately infatuated. He ends up giving her his number on a hot dog. Get you a man that goes over and above, you know? But Jill doesn't seem to be particularly interested in Al Pacino. He tries to woo her, invites her to his home, but she doesn't seem to be much interested in him and soon leaves afterward. But Al Pacino isn't the only man that has eyes for Jill. Apparently, Jack's Mexican gardener, Felipe, is also smitten with Jill and takes her to meet his family at their annual fiesta, where she hits it off with essentially everybody. Pacino refuses to do the commercial unless Jack gets him another date with Jill, forcing Jack to invite Jill on a cruise he initially planned only for his immediate family. However, she still refuses to see Pacino again, so Jack disguises himself as his sister and goes on the date with the actor. After some shenanigans, Jill realizes that she was only invited to the trip because of Pacino, and that her brother was trying to set her up with Pacino so that he would do the commercial. And so she decides, screw this, I'm going home to the Bronx. I wanted to have great time with my family, particularly my brother, but fine, I'll just go home. Feeling guilty, Jack, as well as Aaron and the kids, follow her. On New Year's Eve, Jill encounters a group of former classmates and bullies led by a woman named Monica at a restaurant, which really came out of nowhere. I was like, did I miss something? Were these people ever mentioned at any point in the rest of this? They literally pulled these bullies out of their ass. It was wild. Anyway, but just at that time, Jack, Aaron, and the kids come in to show her love, I guess, and reconcile. They reconcile in a very cringe, weird, made-up twin language. And then randomly, one of the bullies attacks Jack's wife. She was like, I used to date him. I'm like, babe, we're 42. Then here comes Jill to knock Monica out cold. Pacino arrives and tells Jill that he still has feelings for her, but there is another man more worthy of her love than himself. She goes home to find Felipe and his children, where they began a relationship. And finally, the television commercial is made with Al Pacino starring in it. He raps.
What's my name?
Dunkaccino!
It's a whole new game.
Dunkaccino!
You want creamy goodness? I'm your friend. Say hello to my chocolate blend.
And the movie ends with him saying, burn this. I don't want anyone to ever see it. I would hope that this never is seen by the public.
Dunkaccino!
There's something so synthesized about reading this story plot that let you realize that it's not even much of a movie. Like, it's not particularly funny. It can be whittled down in 5 minutes just reading. Like, it's bad. This movie's bad. Again, the movie's not completely a bust. I think Al Pacino, again, when on screen, is pretty funny for the most part. I'd say usually. But it's not his movie. At least not in, like, entirely. He's more of a supporting actor. So we're here for Sandler, which I guess is why it did so well in the box office, but it's bad. This movie is actually bad. It was nice to see Al Pacino clearly enjoying himself. And, you know, he's playing himself, so he's kind of poking fun at his star persona, and that's kind of lively and fun to look at. But it does seem that Al Pacino, and honestly, any of the cameos are funnier than anything Sandler does on screen. It's how you get overshadowed in your own movie and you play two parts. Embarrassing. I'm sorry. It's like, I say all that to say this movie's guilty. Trash. In the world, in the milieu of men dressing up as women and playing funny parts, there are some movies that I do believe, though equally as misogynistic, are still funny to me. The first one that comes to mind is White Chicks. White Chicks is funny. That movie is still funny to this day. But, you know, this not so much. I don't think it's very good at all. I don't think it's funny. Only times I laugh is when it wasn't on purpose and or it wasn't Adam Sandler. That's not a good batting average you got there, babe. I don't think that's what you want when you're the head of a comedy. But yeah, though my rulings are final, You can always voice your opinion down in the comment sections. Let me know. Do you think that I had a bad rating? Do you think I had a bad verdict? Have you seen this movie? What are your thoughts on it? I'm highly curious. If you would like to check us out here on More Butter, feel free to subscribe. Follow us anywhere you listen to podcasts as well. If you're listening to this in an audio format, Spotify or anywhere else, Apple, where you listen to them. If you want to see me specifically, I'm KennieJD, and I am everywhere as KennieJD. That's KennieJD on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok when I feel like it. And without further ado, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And don't forget to butter your popcorn. I'm getting better. I'm making it less weird until I said that. Okay.